What's up, guys? Welcome back to Gotians Games, and today I'm actually going to show you guys how to use SAOIF on Bluestacks and how to use it on OBS, because I've actually been getting a lot of questions on how I'm using SAOIF on an emulator, and I realized I never actually did a video on that, and I thought it'd be a good idea to show you guys as well how to put it onto OBS and how to use it on OBS as well for those of you guys who do record videos and who do stream. So let's get into that. As you can see here, I have my BlueStacks, or not. I mean, you can't tell it's my BlueStacks, but I have my SAOIF on the screen at the moment. So now I'm going to take this down and I'm going to go ahead and show you step by step what I do. So first things first, we go into settings. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in there. All right, so we're going to go into settings at the top here. You can see settings, click on that. So once you click on settings, now obviously before you open the game, so that way you don't have to restart anything, but go ahead into your settings, and then once you're in your settings, you have different options. You have your display, engine, boss key, notifications, preference, backup, restore, about, and update. Now the two biggest ones are going to be display and engine. So depending on how you want to have your BlueStacks, you might want different aspect ratios. To me, the game runs best in either 720 or 1080. Because once you start going into the 1600 by 900 or the 2560 1440 aspect ratios, those are more ultra wide, and the game isn't fully supported in that kind of aspect ratio. So you may have some like graphical glitches and things like that, and that's not what you want. So for me, I put it on 1080 and it runs just fine. Also, keep in mind it's dependent on how well your computer can handle this. So if you have, like a computer that's, I don't know, maybe like 5 years old or something, maybe it might not be able to do this because it will take quite a bit of power and CPU usage away from your computer. Now, that's the other thing to keep in mind when you're doing this. The emulators do not run off of your GPU to a full extent that most games would. A lot of games, the way that they work, just a little technical jargon for you guys. A lot of the way the games work on computers is they run off of your CPU in order to go ahead and process the data, and then the CPU contacts it communicates with your GPU, and your GPU will then render the data that the CPU is sending for your images and things of that nature. Now it's different when you're playing like say an MMO versus a game that preloads the map. Like for example, League of Legends preloads the map, so the CPU is not using any data other than when it first loads the map. Once the game is already loaded in League of Legends, the GPU takes over and does all the work. In an MMO like this, it's very CPU intensive because the CPU is constantly running. Okay, it's constantly sending data to the GPU in order to render the images that it's reading. So, with that in mind, aspect ratio is important because it will eat up more CPU usage. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at, because after you choose your aspect ratio, you go into your engine. So we're going to go into the engine here. Now, you have two graphic modes, DirectX and OpenGL. Well, DirectX tends to have compatibility issues depending on the game. On this one is one of those cases. So honestly, you want to run it on OpenGL. You don't want to run it on DirectX because, like I said, DirectX will give you some compatibility issues, usually graphical errors. Sometimes the colors might not be matching up properly. Sometimes the effects won't be displaying. Sometimes it'll be very, very heavily pixelated. So you want to make sure that you have it on OpenGL. The other thing that we're going to take a look at here in Engine is right there you can see CPU and RAM allocation. Now this here is if you are able to do what's called virtual technology on your computer, that's something that's in your BIOS. You don't necessarily need to do virtual technology. It will help, but you don't need to. It's not necessary. The game will, or the not the game specifically, but the emulator Bluestacks will automatically allocate a specific amount of CPU usage for you. Now, RAM allocation, though, you don't need to go into your BIOS and change your virtual technology. RAM allocation, you can just go ahead. You have a slider here. Now, the way that the game runs, the game doesn't like to run anything less than 2 gigs of memory. Okay, so keep that in mind. I have it on max because, again, my computer can do it. It can handle it. So depending on how much RAM your computer has, it will affect you. Again, the game itself does not like less than 2 gigs of RAM. If you're playing the game on your phone and you have less than 2 gigs of RAM on your phone, or even if you have 2 gigs of RAM on your phone, the game may not run properly because it's not enough to run the game. So when you're doing something like this, try to just do as much as you possibly can. Again, like if you have an older computer that has like 6 gigs of RAM, maybe it's not a good idea to allocate 4 gigs of RAM to that, because then you have nothing else to do anything else on your computer. So, be mindful of what your computer can handle. Now, once those are done, you go ahead and just hit restart now, and the game or the emulator will restart, and it will open with those settings that you set. And that's it. That's all you need for running it on BlueStacks. Go and download the game and run it, and you're good to go. It honestly, the rest of the stuff here, boss key, preferences, backup, restore, like all that stuff, none of it is important. So you don't even have to worry about any of that stuff right there. All right, so the next thing we're going to take a look at, we are going to take a look at how to run it on OBS. If you're using Streamlab OBS, it's the same thing. It's not going to change anything, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and show you the settings and everything. I know it's kind of Inception-ist right now, but I'm going to show you everything on how to run this. So in order to run it properly, you're going to go into your settings. Okay, once you're in your settings, we'll go into the output first. So as you can see right here, this is my output for my OBS settings. There's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. So if you're recording is going to be different than streaming. Okay, so recording, I'm using NVENC, the H.264 encoder. That's basically running off my graphics card. There's different options to run off your graphics card or to run off your CPU. So if you have a powerful enough graphics card, run it off your graphics card. You can like crank up the bit rate, you can crank up the high performance, and you can get basically the best quality that you want to get. So that's kind of not too big a deal right there. Again, depending on how you're running it. So if you're using, say for example, you don't have a powerful graphics card, or you have an APU, which is a combination of a graphics card and a CPU, then maybe you don't use this encoder. Maybe you use the CPU one instead. At which point you'll have to change your preset from high performance. Maybe you just want like just default, and also change your bit rate, lower it a bit. As far as streaming goes, encoder X264 is the encoder I use that runs off of my CPU. I've noticed, for me, for example, running it off of my GPU for streaming, for some reason my computer doesn't like it. I don't know, maybe I don't have the settings properly for it. That could be a case too. I have my output for streaming at 720 because my internet can't handle more than 720. That has nothing to do with my computer. If I have better internet, I could stream it at freaking 1440 or even 4K because my computer will be able to do it. The bit rate, again, I have to lower it. I'm at 1400 again because my internet can't handle more than that. The way that you do your bit rate is dependent on what your upload speed is. So whatever your upload speed is for your internet, you never want to put any more than about, I would say, 70% of what your upload speed is. So my upload speed is think it's 2 megabits per second. Like it's really really low. It's stupid. So that's why my bit rate is as low as it is. So in order to kind of offset that, I have my CPU usage preset actually higher. I have that set at medium, as you can see right here. Now your CPU usage, again, depending on what kind of CPU you have, you need to be careful, because if you have this at like the slower speed, basically the quality is going to go up, but it's going to eat up your CPU usage. That's why I said you got to be careful with that. The better CPU you have, the slower you can put the preset to up the quality. All right, so there's also advanced if you want to go ahead and check that out. Like I have direct, I'm running on direct 11, mainly because direct 12, like it's there, but I have better compatibility with direct 11, so that's why I'm running it. Monitoring device, all that other stuff is not too big a deal. So that's how I go ahead and set it up on OBS there. There's also right here for video recording. You got your base canvas, which is basically this right here, like the outside portion of it. I have it on 1080, and then output scale resolution. So when I'm recording, it's set to 1080. So this video is going to be recorded on 1080. That's also 60 frames per second, which you can go ahead and change it again depending on your CPU and the specs of your computer. So I hope you guys found this informative, because I know like I've had a lot of people asking me different questions like, oh, how do I run this on how do I run it on an emulator? How are you streaming it? All this other stuff. That is how I'm doing it. So if you guys did find this informative, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and I will catch you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching today. I do appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out, guys.